In a statement, church leaders reaffirmed the faith does not endorse, promote, or oppose political parties and their platforms or candidates. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. United Airlines brought in bigger planes and added more flights today to accommodate people trying to leave the Tampa Bay area ahead of Hurricane Milton. The airline says all those flights are now full. The storm expected to make landfall on the Florida Gulf Coast sometime tomorrow. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day, 127 points. The NASDAQ is up 236 right now. And our KSL weather, we have sunshine and just a slight chance of a rainfall. That's next. KSL News Time 101.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Already, Dee and I have two very special events planned for Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. We've got a birthday and we've got an anniversary to celebrate in the month of October. And of course, it just wouldn't be a grand celebration without Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And sometimes, too, you just need, not want, you need the perfectly cooked steak. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, nobody does it better. And it's prepared exactly the way you want it. Now, Dee, she likes her steak a little more well done than I do. I like mine medium. I like ribeye. She likes hers a filet, and sometimes they will butterfly it so it's cooked absolutely to her taste. Then those side dishes are off the charts. The dessert, you've got to save room for dessert when you're going to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. This is the time, just like Dee and I have done, make your reservation. Celebrate that great occasion at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, downtown Salt Lake City, and of course, Hotel Park City.
My name is Brian King, and I'm running to be your governor because Utah is headed in the wrong direction, and we can do so much better. If you're frustrated by politics today, if you feel like politicians aren't listening to you, if you're looking for something different, for a leader who prioritizes common sense and bipartisanship, you have a place with us in this campaign. Join us and vote for Brian King for governor by November 5th. For the better.
Paid for by Brian for Utah.
Get ready for the spooky season by eliminating all of the spooky dirt, grime, and spills. Halloween brings out the best in people, but also the scariest dirt from all the foot traffic. Carpets, tiles, rugs, upholstery, basically every surface in your home can be zero resified. Right now, you can get your entire home zero resified and get 3 rooms of carpet cleaning starting out at only $109 and take 20% off your air duct cleaning. Don't let a misdeal haunt you. Schedule at zerores.com or call 801-288-9376 and ask for this special.
Utah's biggest used RV Palooza is back and better than ever. This October 10th through the 12th at the shops at Southtown. You're getting the best deals of the season on used travel trailers, fifth wheels, toy haulers, motorhomes, and more. Shop gently used RVs at the show and save thousands over fall pricing anywhere else. Find deals starting as low as $9,995, like on a 2021 Forest River Viking LS Series M238 LS tent camper. Plus, shop select new RVs at used pricing, not to mention blowout pricing on all remaining 2024s in stock. You'll also enjoy no payments until 2025 on approved credit. Finish your fall camping season in style without a single monthly payment. And if you've got a trade, we want it. Bring it to the show to get maximum trade-in value. We're even including a 1-year Fish Fix membership with every RV purchase. Your fast track to RV service repairs. And don't miss out on our Hunter Special section to keep your hunting season going strong. All this plus free admission to the Utah Used RV Palooza. 3 days only, October 10th through the 12th at the shops at Southtown. Open daily at 10 a.m. Sponsored by Bish's RV. See you there.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We still have the final cleanup of an accident in Riverton, 126 South. It's between Redwood Road and about 2200 West, and also clearing of what was road debris, we believe, northbound I-15, several vehicles over to the right shoulder prior to 5600 South Roy. Celebrate Taco Tuesday the tasty way at Cafe Rio. Handmade tortillas bring the vibes. Slow braised meats bring the punch, and 12 tasty toppings bring the party. Starting at just $2.49. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
It'll be warm for October with highs in the 80s and overnight lows around 60. And right now we're at 81 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, Florida is preparing for one of the strongest storms ever coming out of the Atlantic as Hurricane Milton is barreling towards and bearing down on the Sunshine State. Whether we like it or not, we've got to have some different kinds of conversations when it comes to hurricane preparations. But maybe more than that, we need to think again about what we think we know when it comes to hurricane politics. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, we're really thrilled to have joining us back on the program today, Alexander Bolton, of course, senior staff writer at The Hill, and a great piece in The Hill, really breaking down where we are. We're a lot of talk of hurricanes, a lot of talk of FEMA and response. We talk about it in the context of all the politics going on, and there's a lot underneath the surface that we ought to think again about, especially as it comes to these kinds of things. And Alex, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, so obviously when we look, we always talk about what's the October surprise going to be, and this year maybe come in the form of back-to-back hurricanes. Talk to us in terms of what that means politically. What does it mean for the administration specifically?
Well, it means the administration is facing a major test here. Helen hit Florida hard and Western North Carolina even harder, and the administration has really tried to show the country and voters, of course, as well, that they're on top of it. You've had President Biden and Vice President Harris, visiting the areas that were hit hard. They have the FEMA administrator, Deanne Criswell, on the ground. Harris just announced in Augusta, Georgia last week, $750 checks to people who've been affected by the hurricane. So they're really going into overdrive to show that they got this and they're going to handle it competently. But, it's a stroke of bad luck here because Hurricane Milton, which had been a Category 5, it's just been downgraded to Category 4. But we're talking, winds that were reaching up to 175 miles an hour. It could be just as strong or maybe even stronger than Helen. It's headed straight for Tampa, Sarasota, and it could be a major disaster in Florida. And so the question now is, does the administration have the bandwidth, to take all this and react to it appropriately? The other, I think, complicating factor here is that Congress adjourned at the end of September without replenishing the FEMA disaster relief funding. They thought it would last until December, but that was before Helen and now before Milton are going to wreak havoc all over the place. So I think it's a high-risk situation for the administration because, as we've seen in the past, hurricane politics can be very potent. And Barack Obama's response to Superstorm Sandy in 2012 helped seal the deal and helped him win re-election that year. That was, of course, epitomized when Chris Christie, the Republican governor of New Jersey, greeted him warmly on the airport tarmac in Atlantic City, kind of showed voters that Obama was competent. So stakes are high for Harris, and I think there's a question about her leadership skills. If there are flaws in the federal response, or if the federal response becomes overwhelmed by the second hurricane, that could be bad news for the Democrat.
Yeah, I think that's I love your historical perspective there, looking back at both what happened with President Obama in New Jersey. I thought that was such a seminal moment during that election cycle. And, of course, now we have some very interesting dynamics in that most of these states that are being impacted are definitely more red than blue. Some are a little more purplish, North Carolina. But give us a sense in terms of how that dynamic is playing out and how everyone from the administration to the governors are trying to navigate that.
Well, I think what's interesting here is the politics that are being played by Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor. He had his eye on the presidency and may run in 2028. I think it's likely. And, he has been very careful not to repeat Chris Christie's mistake. When Chris Christie kind of, some said he hugged Obama in 2012. Right. I mean, that helped Obama. It also doomed Christie's future in Republican politics. DeSantis steering clear of Harris. In fact, he wouldn't even take her call. Eventually he did. But, the news yesterday was that he would not take Harris's call because he thought it was a political stunt. And then in Georgia, the governor, Brian Kemp, who doesn't have a whole lot of love for Trump, he has clashed with Trump in the past. He has not done any joint event with Harris. He's been careful not to give her the photo op. And instead, he has appeared with Trump, at a recent event where Trump was kind of highlighting, his support for the hurricane victims. So, there is certainly politics involved here, and the Republican governors know it. Now, in North Carolina, you have a Democratic governor, and that's, I think that's to Harris's benefit. And he was on the short list to be Harris's running mate, right. And he is very competent, and he's also being very careful, being very assiduous in keeping his name in the local news and persuading the residents of North Carolina that he is fully on top of this and fully taking it seriously.
Yeah, so fascinating to see all of that play out. And, of course, we wish there was no politics in any of this. This is a hurricane in people's lives and things they've spent their lives putting together, and now it's going to – many of it will be dismantled by winds and rising tide and all of that. Give us a sense in terms of kinds of the dollars and cents of it as you look at particularly what Congress may have to do. Will they need to come back and plus up some of that FEMA response ability? Do they have enough to get through this storm and maybe squeak their way into December when they'll have to be back at the budget table anyway?
Well, that's something I'm working on for tomorrow. And, some Republicans have called for Congress to convene an emergency session, namely, Rick Scott of Florida and also, Tom Tillis of North Carolina. Now, the Republican Speaker, Mike Johnson, he's kind of, shot that idea down, and it doesn't appear that there's any interest in doing that, coming back before Election Day to do an emergency session. Now, right now, speaking to, Senate aides, they say that there is about $20 billion that FEMA has access to that was projected to be to last until December. Now, since the storms are going to be a lot worse than expected, will it make it all the way into December? Yes, it will. But if there is a shortage of funds, it may impact FEMA's work on non-emergency situations. So, FEMA is working on, long-term, rehabilitation of disaster-hit areas, working on housing, things like that, not pressing needs. So if worse comes to worse, FEMA could, cut back its, construction efforts in non-emergency areas to focus on immediate life-saving needs. And whether that happens or not, we'll have to see. But this storm is projected to be very serious. And Marco Rubio, the other Republican senator from Florida, was posting maps and warnings on social media yesterday, warning that there could be 8 to 15 foot storm surge on the west coast of Florida, including Sarasota and Tampa. So as you've probably seen the images, the traffic is all backed up as people are scrambling to evacuate as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and then give us a sense in terms of the election itself. Obviously, when you've got these counties that are just annihilated in so many ways. What does that look like in terms of the first Tuesday of November this year and what people are able to do, access to the ballot, mail-in ballots, all of those kinds of things? What are you hearing? What are you sensing there?
Well, I think the early in-person voting in North Carolina starts October 17th. I wrote a story about this last week, and, it looks like turnout and voting in Western North Carolina is certainly going to be impacted. Now, that is a Republican area with the exception of, two communities, Asheville, which is, more Democratic or certainly liberal if you've ever been there. And then there's Boone, North Carolina as well, which is home to Appalachia State University. So, the Democrats typically have really tried to, run up the score in those, Democratic pockets in the West. And I think it's going to be very hard for them to do it this year. I've spoken to some strategists down in North Carolina. And, what they point out is that, look, all the field operations in Western North Carolina have completely stopped. And Democrats instead are, focusing on the major cities, Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham, for example. Now, but also this affects Republicans as well because, while Asheville and Boone are quite Democratic, outside those areas, it's very rural. If you've ever been there, it's quite conservative. Yeah. And those areas are very much impacted. The roads are closed. People don't have access to food, to water, to cell service even. So, voting is kind of, last thing on their minds. So I think, turnout is going to be affected in Western North Carolina, but I think it's going to affect both parties equally, and whether it affects Democrats or Republicans more, it's really hard to say at this point.
Yeah. Great perspective as always, Alexander Bolton, senior staff writer at The Hill. You can check out his piece at thehill.com. Always great reporting, always great writing. Alex, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot for inviting me on.
Crucial conversation there, and I think we should persistently have the conversation about natural disaster preparedness, hurricane preparedness. The thing that has me a little uneasy today is the fact that we have to spend so much time talking about hurricane politics, disaster relief politics, because that's not what governing is supposed to be about. Elections, I get it. You can criticize, you can go back and forth, but there is this thing called governing that should be first, last, and always for people who are in office. It should never be about the politics of a hurricane. It should always be about, were we prepared, and then what did we actually deliver for the people? We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Nobody had this team 5-0.
It's in the air a long time. Picked off! That'll be the ball game!
Undefeated. Top of the Big 12. Playoff dark horse. But Saturday, BYU defends its house against Arizona. This is a big one, Cougar fans. Catch Cougar Tracks for BYU updates at 7:55 each morning. And Saturday, pregame coverage starts at noon, and the kick is at 2 on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
Winter is coming, but there's still time to replace those drafty old windows before the cold comes and drives up your heating bill. Just make one call and take advantage of the Advanced Window Products Fall Special. $2,500 off on 10 windows or more, and that's $2,500 off their already low factory direct prices, because at Advanced Window Products, they're the factory. Your windows are built in their facility right here in Salt Lake City. You're buying local, and with their lifetime guarantee, you don't ever have to call some faraway state for help. Advanced Window Products is right here, proudly backing up their work. So make one call, save on your heating bill, and get a rebate from the energy companies. Advanced Window Products offers 0% financing. They can even give you amazing new windows with no money down. And don't forget, $2,500 off their factory direct prices, but you have to call now. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America NA.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Wendy's breakfast burrito has an entire breakfast in every bite. Fresh cracked eggs, seasoned potatoes, American cheese, cheese sauce, and sausage or bacon. So the first bite is like fresh cracked
American
cheese sauce.
bacon.
And the second bite is like fresh
American
cheese sauce.
bacon.
And the third bite, you get the idea. The boss of breakfast burritos, gotta be Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Imagine your team always looking and feeling their best in high-performance technical workwear. Cintas can make it happen. They have garments for almost every job imaginable. And with the Cintas Workwear program, you get freshly laundered garments delivered every week for everyone on your team. Great garments without the bother of laundry. That's a real perk for employees. Find out how Cintas can boost team image and morale. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Save $2,500 on a new furnace and air conditioner from Any Hour Services. For more information, call Any Hour Services or schedule a free estimate online at anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a medical helicopter had to make a hard landing in Summit County. The crew wasn't injured. They didn't have a patient on board. Second, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is restating its policy of political neutrality ahead of the election. And third, one airline brought in bigger planes and added flights to help people leave Tampa before Hurricane Milton arrives. 81 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Well, as America prepares for new leadership in 2025, the opportunity to reimagine federal higher education policy is front and center. The current system, of course, while providing educational access to many, often props up low-quality programs and neglects promising alternatives like apprenticeships. By focusing on transparency and accountability and diversifying the educational pathways, guess what? We can think again about what we think we know, and we can actually reshape the landscape to better serve students, taxpayers, businesses, and our communities. Preston Cooper is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, where he does his work and focuses on higher education ROI, student loans, and higher education reform. And Preston, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Boyd. Thanks for having me back.
Great stuff. This is a great piece as you talk about 6 ideas to fix higher education. And some of them are structural components, and some of them are more process pieces. They're all so vital, though, to reimagining what we do with all of this. And so let's kind of start with this idea of transparency, because I do believe if you want to change something, you got to understand where you are. It's like that red dot on the map at the mall. If you don't know where you are, you can't chart a course where you want to go.
I think that's exactly right. You know, higher education transparency is so important because there's a lot of great college programs out there, but there's a lot of not so great college programs out there. And students really need to have the data to understand what the outcomes of these different degrees are before they get into them. And the good news is this has been a pretty bipartisan issue. The Obama administration, the Trump administration, and the Biden administration have taken steps to expand the amount of data available to students on higher education outcomes. And I hope that, whoever takes office in 2025 will continue and expand these efforts to release data on, what students can expect to earn after graduation and how much they're going to pay for college.
Yeah, I think understanding all of that totally changed the dynamic as a young student or sitting down with their parents or counselors or whoever it may be to chart their course, to be able to say, okay, here's what I can expect, here's what the path looks like, and having some of that transparency is so vital. You have another piece that I think goes hand in glove with the transparency, and that's the benchmarks, the accountability. I know this is radical stuff to be thinking about from government, but kind of walk us through, what does it mean to actually get to some of those standards and benchmarks?
Well, sure. I mean, transparency is great, but it's often not enough. I mean, sometimes the rules that we're putting out around higher education need to have teeth so that if you are a college and you're getting funding from the federal government, especially student loan funding, and you're not producing outcomes that are up to snuff, maybe you should not be eligible for federal student loan funding anymore. Maybe you should not be, putting students in tens of thousands of dollars of debt that they're never going to be able to pay back. And we actually think that the president right now has the power to take some action on his own in order to address this. The Secretary of Education actually does have the power to cut some low-performing colleges off of the federal dole. And we think that, he or she should use that power come 2025.
Yeah, that's a game changer when suddenly there is that benchmark and that accountability process on the backside of the transparency, I think is so vital. Another area that I love that you got into in this piece that I think is so vital, and that is just this experimentation, this entrepreneurial approach to higher education. I always say a company, if it doesn't have a Skunk Works team or if it doesn't have a pilot program going in some way or another, they're going to die, because that means you're just doing the status quo over and over again. So what would that look like if you kind of went down this Skunk Works pilot program? Let's do a blue sky shoot the moon model.
That's a great question. And there's good news here, too, because the Secretary of Education actually has the power to launch some of these pilot programs, small-scale pilot programs, on his own without the need to pass a bill through Congress, which, as we know, is a challenge. And basically, we can waive various laws and regulations, governing how the federal financial aid system is supposed to work, and say, hey, we can start providing some pilot funding for, say, apprenticeship programs or workforce training programs through the existing, Pell Grant program, for instance, and try to, see if students succeed in these alternative models. And if they do, then that could be the basis for potentially a broader program that Congress maybe could potentially create if those programs are getting results.
Yeah, I'm so glad you pointed that out, that there are things that just can be done. We'll talk about what Congress can do in a second, but I just want our listeners to just let that settle for a minute. I always say when someone tells me in an organization that they have a funding problem, they would do this or do that, they have a funding problem, my response is always, no, you don't have a funding problem, you have a leadership problem. Or if someone in government says, well, we can't do this, we can't do that, it's like, no, you have a leadership problem. And I think what you just outlined, Preston, is a leadership problem. If the executive branch can do this and is not doing this, then they're really not leading. And I think that's another area where we, the people, have to then weigh in with some transparency and some accountability as well.
I think that's right. Like I said, the Secretary of Education has the power to do some of this stuff right now. It's not going to be huge sweeping reform, but they can certainly do more than they're doing. And there's certainly a lot that can be done in terms of experimentation to really try new models that might benefit students more.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump in real quickly just to some of the structural things in terms of what Congress can do. Most of that is around kind of those funding components. Give us just a quick snapshot in terms of college responsibility, some graduate student loans. Give us a quick sense of that.
Well, I think the fundamental issue right now is that colleges have access to basically unlimited student loan funding from the federal government and face basically no accountability for it. So I think there's a couple things that really need to be done here. Number one, we should make colleges responsible for unpaid student loans. If you want to charge students $100,000 for a degree in finger painting or something else that's, not going to get them a good job, maybe the college should be on the hook for some of that. And maybe they'll be incentivized then to either lower their prices or start offering education in fields of study that will actually lead to a good job. And the second thing we need to do is actually to cap how much students are able to borrow from the federal government so that the school is not able to charge $100,000 for that silly master's degree and is not able to just, take money from the federal government and face basically no accountability for it. And I think especially at the graduate level where, students who are in, high quality graduate programs like law or medicine could easily get funding on the private market. There's very little justification for, the federal government to intervene here. That's certainly a place where we could limit the amount of student loan funding going out.
No question. I'm going to save your last point for the next time we have you on the show, because I love this overhauling the federal student aid to support more of those alternatives, more of that apprenticeship programs. I think that's one that deserves a deep dive. But this is fantastic thinking. This is the kind of way we have to reimagine what's going on if we really want to have some change. Preston Cooper, Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. And Preston, as always, thanks for joining us. Fantastic thinking. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
All right, that's Preston Cooper again from AEI, and this is really some good, strong, creative, imaginative thinking, and we need more of this because it'll change the game, and then it will change the results for all of our students. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. Parties ready to start on the Delta Center Plaza before tonight's NHL home opener with the Utah Hockey Club. The concessions menu for the hockey games recently went viral, with bottled waters selling at $2 and snacks like nachos and hot dogs priced at $3. Vice President of Hospitality, Rich Waters, says they want to entice fans and keep them coming back.
In terms of just creating another level of value, another reason for people to come back, another reason to get excited about coming to Utah Hockey Club or NBA action is going to be great.
The Delta Center still partnered with local restaurants, so there will be some pricier options available. Firefighters have mapped the Yellow Lake fire burning near Camas, and they say it's now burned almost 20,000 acres, and it's 10% contained. They've had to deal with variable winds, and the north and west forks of the Duchesne River still under evacuation orders, while people in the town of Hanna have been told to be ready to evacuate if necessary. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Some people in the San Bernardino area have been out of their homes for a month because of wildfires there. The line fire has burned close to 44,000 acres, and just today, the community of Angeles Oaks is finally open again so people can return to their homes. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 139 points on the day, while the NASDAQ has risen 249. And our KSL weather looks like we've got sunshine and certainly warm temperatures for October. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
I'm Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. Listen to what actual clients have had to say about working with us.
Hi, I'm Gary. I'm a building contractor. About a year prior to the market crashing, we had a big job that was unable to pay a bill of about 6 figures. We were still left with a very difficult situation with the IRS. Eventually, at the end of the day, I realized that the penalties and interest were growing faster than my ability to save to deal with it. I had talked to people and I felt that Jordan Wilcox represented best what I thought could help me, primarily because they were local, and I needed a bigger solution than I was coming up with. It takes too long to figure it out on your own.
Hi, I'm Jordan Wilcox. You need a tax attorney that's not afraid to fight for you. Visit taxhelput.com to schedule your free consultation.
I would recommend Jordan Wilcox. It feels very good to not have the IRS on your back.
That's taxhelput.com.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Tommy! I can't wait for golf this weekend, huh, buddy? Time flies. Love you, man. Oh, don't forget your knee brace again. We aren't in college anymore.
Moments together matter, so help protect yourself from RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our clients' portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have an accident in Utah County, southbound I-15, not far from Center Street. They do have it moved out of traffic over to the right shoulders just before the exit ramp. And even though it's out of traffic, it is causing just a touch of slowing in the area. Prep for winter. Get a furnace inspection from a certified heating contractor to check for safety and efficiency. A reminder from OnBridge Gas. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's warm for October with highs in the 80s. Our overnight lows are around 60. Right now, we're looking at 80 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, on a day when a lot of folks are focused on hurricane and projecting the path of the storm and who will be most impacted, who needs to get to higher ground, who just needs to get out of town, it's an interesting thing to compare and contrast when you look at the realm of public safety. The transformation that's taken place in how we forecast and how we alert people has really shifted dramatically in terms of how the approach to public communication. And it's in a real interesting contrast to what we often do with public health. And it's so different. And so we're going to unpack that a little bit. I think there's some important lessons, some really important principles for us to think again about as we roll through the day today. Dr. Caitlin Rivers is an epidemiologist and author of the book Crisis Averted. Just came out today. Also a fantastic piece in the New York Times called Want People to Embrace Public Health? Make it More Like Weather Forecasting. And Dr. Rivers, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me on.
This is so fascinating to me. And I actually want to start right where you started your piece in the New York Times, and I know this is a central piece in terms of your book. In terms of, walk us through the change in terms of communicating a thing like a tornado or a hurricane, and then give us the compare and contrast to what we do when it comes to public health.
Sure. In the first half of the 20th century, it was actually forbidden for meteorologists or weather forecasters to alert the public of the possibility of tornadoes. It was considered taboo. And the reasons given for why meteorologists were not allowed to mention tornadoes, I think, have a lot in common with public health. The reasons given included that it would cause panic, that it would disrupt business, that it would potentially cause its own harms because people would shelter in damp basements. So these kinds of brutal, spurious reasons prevented the public from knowing about threats to their health and safety. Now, in public health, I think we face a similar problem to where tornado forecasting was in those early years, where we don't always level with the public as clearly as we should. And I think it's mainly out of that interest of protecting people's kind of emotions. But weather has undergone a huge transformation, and it's now one of the major objectives of meteorology to get information to people that they need to make good decisions, to communicate clearly and frequently. And I think that's where we need to go in public health as well.
Yeah, being able to communicate clearly and frequently so that people can make their own decisions as to what to do for their wellness, their safety, their well-being. You pointed out in your piece this 1925 tornado that ended up costing 700 people their lives. And again, at the time, if you couldn't forecast a tornado for fear you would cause people to panic or all of those other, potential taboo things, that's kind of an interesting tipping point. And so as you look at it as an epidemiologist and looking at public health, what are the kinds of ways that we should go about that kind of forecasting? Obviously, we don't want everyone to hunker down in their house if there's not a need, but how do we do that, as you said, frequently, clearly, so that people can make their best decisions?
Right. This is not about alarming anyone at all, because also referring to the example of weather, even when it's 75 and sunny, we still have weather updates reminding us that everything looks great. And I think we could do that with public health as well. It's just as helpful to hear, nope, nothing of concern in the world of outbreaks or respiratory diseases right now, as it is to hear that there's something brewing that we may want to pay attention to. With hurricanes, for example, we've already been hearing about Hurricane Milton, which is headed for the Gulf side of Florida. for several days. And that extra attention and extra warning has given people in the storm's path time to evaluate their circumstances and to evacuate. In contrast, in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, we heard repeatedly that the risk to the American public was low. And indeed, the risk was not low. And I think we wasted time reassuring people when we could have been helping them to understand what we as a country were likely to face.
Yeah, so important. Walk us through how we navigate, because this is both art and science, I think, in the end. Because you have on one hand, if you're always crying wolf, and then everyone kind of becomes numb to it, or the alarm fatigue kind of settles in. What do you think in terms of an approach that kind of threads that needle a little bit in terms of what we do need, and that when there is an urgent message coming, that people are ready and recognize that certain trumpet of, hey, this is the one you got to really pay attention to?
I think that's where the recurring communication and conversation really comes in. If the only time the public is hearing for us in epidemiology or public health is when something has gone wrong, there's not a relationship of trust or understanding to fall back on. But if we are in daily conversation or weekly conversation with the public, again, not necessarily ringing any alarm bells, but just saying what we're seeing, what we're thinking about, what we're doing, then people will learn more about our activities and what they should be paying attention to. And we can also build that relationship of trust.
Yeah. Oh, that trust is everything. We talk about that a lot on this show. And to me, it's one of the most important things is that you become that trusted voice. Say, oh, yeah, they let me know this was coming. Or, oh, yeah, that's how that played out. Oh, that's interesting. Or suddenly you have that rapport, that relationship, as you pointed out, Dr. Rivers. And then there's that trust gets developed. And we've been talking a lot in the context of how much trust we've lost in society, both in institutions that are crucial, but also in each other. And so how do we continue to foster that? You talk about it in the context of kind of this duty to warn mentality of the forecasting. What are some of the other things that we should be thinking about or thinking differently about how we communicate when it comes to public health?
Well, Boyd, I think you said it yourself right there. The reason that people listen to you and your show is because they've come to know you and come to trust you. Institutions do not communicate. People communicate. And I think we have not given the American public an opportunity to meet people in public health and to hear from them regularly. It's often a voiceless, nameless entity communicating about public health activities when it should be more humans who can become trusted messengers and who the audience can come to know and understand.
Yeah. That is so important. The book is called Crisis Averted, comes out today. Dr. Caitlin Rivers, epidemiologist and author of the book Crisis Averted. And again, there's also a great piece. If you want a little sneak preview, you can go to the NewYorkTimes.com and check out Want People to Embrace Public Health, Make It More Like Weather Forecasting. Really brilliant thinking. I think this is one of those underneath the headline conversations that we have to have a lot more of in this country, because this is like weather. We talked about the politics of hurricanes earlier. There's the politics of public health, and what we need to get is to the trust so that we can have the conversations about hurricanes and public health. Dr. Rivers, thanks so much for joining us. This is really great work.
Thanks so much.
All right, again, that's Dr. Caitlin Rivers, epidemiologist, author of a brand new book out today, Crisis Averted. Check out her piece at the New York Times. And I love this idea of doing it as a kind of a weathercast. This is what's coming. This is what we're tracking. Not alarmist, not panic-inducing, but building a relationship of trust so that when we do have something coming, that we'll have that relationship, that we will be able to trust it. And then we can make the best decisions for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. We'll step aside for a quick break. Come on back. More Inside Sources coming up next.
At Macy's, we're proud to be local and support local. Carrying local products and produce is important to us. We are proud to support our local growers and bring peak freshness to you and your family. To make shopping local easier for you, we have added Utah Proud tags beneath local products. As you shop our stores, look out for the tags as you shop and show your pride for local Utah companies and growers. Thank you for shopping local yourself by shopping at Macy's. Macy's, happy shopping!
It's official. KSL Sports is your official radio home of the Utah Hockey Club. When the puck hits the ice this fall, you'll hear every goal, every check, and every tension-filled moment on the KSL Sports Zone. Join us to celebrate the home opener at Delta Center on October 8th. Your exclusive home of the NHL and the Utah Hockey Club in Utah is KSL Sports in 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. So at Consumer Cellular, we're lowering the price for those 50 and up. Now you can get unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 a line when you buy two. That's just $60 a month for 2 unlimited lines. So if you're 50 and up, make the switch and save. Come on, you've earned this. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today. Requires 2 lines of service, age validation, and credit approval, subject to system and area limits, taxes, and other fees apply.
Wendy's breakfast burrito has an entire breakfast in every bite. Fresh cracked eggs, seasoned potatoes, American cheese, cheese sauce, and sausage or bacon. So the first bite is like fresh cracked American cheese sauce. Bacon. And the second bite is like fresh American cheese sauce. Bacon. And the third bite, you get the idea. The boss of breakfast burritos, gotta be Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
I started my soda weight loss journey over a year ago, and it is so nice to be heading into the fall and winter holidays looking and feeling so much better than I did at this time in 2023. Best of all, I let go of that 70 pounds of fat and didn't have to use any medications, get any injections, or deal with any crazy side effects. My fellow soda client Vicky got amazing results too.
I have shed over 72 pounds and lost 47.5 inches of body fat. And I am off of every medication for the first time in my life. Oh my gosh, I'm so ecstatic about that.
Well, that excitement's contagious, isn't it? If you start now, you could be down 30 to even 50 pounds by the end of the holidays. It's as simple as going to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com and clicking on Request a Nutritionist Callback. Soda is the #1 rated weight loss company in America for client results and client satisfaction. And you know why? Because soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
They say good things come to those who wait. But this October, better things come to those who act now. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and October is the best month to replace your old furnace and air conditioner if you're trying to beat the winter rush. You see, we've structured our pre-season savings so that the sooner you buy, the more you save. Through the end of October, when you have Any Hour Services install your new furnace and air conditioner, you'll save $2,500 off any new system you choose. And that doesn't even factor in the rebates and incentives you might qualify for. All you have to do to get this deal is get a hold of Any Hour Services before the end of October and schedule a free estimate. After we show you what options are available, pick the system that best meets your needs, and we'll take $2,500 off. If you wait until November to call, you'll still save, but not as much. So if you want to save $2,500 off a new furnace and air conditioner, you need to call Any Hour Services before the end of October and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
911, what's your emergency?
They kidnapped my son.
What would you do if your child disappeared and someone you trusted was responsible?
We thought he cared for McKay, when in fact he didn't care for anyone.
Listen to Ransom now at ransompodcast.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, hockey fans attending tonight's season opener for the Utah Hockey Club have some low-cost options at the concession stand, but there are pricier choices as well. Second, the Yellow Lake Fire in Wasatch County has grown to almost 20,000 acres. And third, it's been a month since the town of Angeles Oaks near San Bernardino was evacuated because of a wildfire, people there finally being allowed to go home again. 80 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Well, Vice President Kamala Harris has positioned herself as a champion of housing affordability. Her recent speeches have highlighted the need to address housing shortages, cut red tape. It's getting praise from a lot of housing policy people. And, of course, it's very populist, so it is a very popular thing to do. And I think most people actually agree, yeah, we do have a problem, and we do need to fix it. But as always, we have to think again and look at the fine print as to what it actually means, what it actually is, what it actually does, and what are the absolute predictable consequences that may or may not move towards the goal. So to help us navigate all of that, of course, we always turn to Christian Britschke, reporter at Reason, covers property rights, housing policy, and regulation, and has a really great piece at reason.com you can check out today. And Christian, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Always a good day when you join us. And this is an interesting one. Obviously, both Republicans and Democrats are trying to out-populist each other this time around. It's a fascinating thing to watch. But the vice president has really gone after housing policy in a very populist way. And so help us unpack it a little bit in terms of what it is, what it isn't, and then we'll get to some of the net consequences of it.
Yeah, sure. So Vice President Kamala Harris has been talking a fair amount about housing on the campaign trail. Certainly more, we've heard more from her about this issue than we've heard from Donald Trump or even, either of the candidates last election cycle or for the past couple election cycles, going after the high cost of housing that Americans are paying. And she's proposed a few different ways of addressing this. One, which sounds maybe appealing for free market types like myself, is how she wants to get rid of rules and regulations and work with state and local governments to get rid of red tape that's driving up cost of housing, preventing people from building new housing. So that sounds interesting and positive. But then she's also, as you mentioned, had a lot of other populist rhetoric about the need to crack down on corporate large corporate landlords raising prices, using algorithms to, collude and raise prices. And then also she wants to spend just a lot of money on subsidies to help pay for down payments, to have local and state governments innovate solutions to the housing crisis, which no one really knows what that means. So it's a real smattering of proposals that in a lot of ways kind of work against each other.
Yeah. So let's break down a few of those. One of those that I think has drawn a lot of interesting eyebrow raises from a few economists anyway is the rent control proposal in terms of will that actually make things better or make things worse?
Right. Yeah. So the vice president's endorsed a plan initially put forward by President Joe Biden to cap rents at 5%, rent increases at 5% per year, and then that's only for larger properties owned by larger landlords, who own 50 plus units. I can't remember the exact number. But those caveats make the policy maybe less burdensome than you might expect, but rent control has, regardless of how narrowly targeted it is, rent control, it couldn't be more documented that the policy, to the degree that it actually suppresses rents or lowers rents, that below what landlords would charge in a free market, it destroys housing supply, either because developers, investors don't want to build new rent-controlled units because they can't get a market price for them, or because the owners of existing rent-controlled units simply sell them to owner-occupiers, take them off the market, and don't rent them out anymore because they can't get a market price for them. So, this time and time again, whenever you've seen rent control imposed at the local and state level, we have plenty of examples in the United States, plenty of recent examples. That's the result, and Harris is proposing to take this nationwide. First time we'd have done that since World War II, when we also happen to have a massive housing shortage.
Yeah,
so.
Fascinating stuff. I also want to get to the first-time home buyers, $25,000 in down payment assistance. Again, I think you and your colleagues at Reason have done some of the best videos on this kinds of things. A great idea, best of intentions, what could possibly go wrong. Tell us about what could possibly go wrong with $25,000 in down payment assistance.
Sure. So, I mean, there's a certain brute logic to this. Of course, housing is too expensive. We should just give people more money to help them buy it. The trouble is that, housing is so expensive in large part because we have all these limitations on people building more of it. It's not that you can't literally build a home in the United States, but it's more difficult than it should be, or than it would be under a free market, and therefore we get less supply. And so in that context, you can expect that a lot of the value of the subsidy you would give to buyers would really end up being a subsidy to home sellers. Because there's limited supply, they can raise the prices to reflect the new subsidy and then capture most of the value. So the benefit that you'd be trying to, so this just raises prices and erodes the benefit that you'd actually have for getting more people into homes, making homes more affordable. That would probably be, that's the chief downside there. In addition to just the cost of your, she wants to give people $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. I mean, that would just, already deficits are high. That would be a significant spending item all by itself, in addition to not really addressing the affordability issues it's targeted at.
Yeah, and I think getting to that net in terms of what would this policy actually do for the people you're trying to help, it would obviously become a seller's market. Sellers would probably pocket most of that in reality, but it definitely wouldn't make prices go down. Would most likely they would go up. And so I think that's a fascinating thing. I want to sneak in one more before I let you go, Christian, and that is when you look at some of the things that have taken place in all this, whether it's credit, whether it's interest rates, there's also other things that impact, and that's fuel. I mean, getting the timber, so you have a tariff component to this, you have an energy component to this, and we often don't link all of those together to say, well, wait a minute, there's a lot more to this policy than just a nice bumper sticker slogan.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's really an important point to stress, is that when it comes to trying to suss out what the impact of each candidate will be on housing, you have to look beyond, what their specific, plan that comes under the headline housing is, right? Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have both endorsed various forms of tariffs on imported materials that are used to build homes. So obviously that's going to increase the cost of building homes, regardless of what they do about rent control or zoning or whatever have you. President Trump former President Trump obviously is running on a proposal to deport a lot of immigrants in the country. That would deport a lot of labor that is used to build homes. So, housing is a complex issue. Every single so many policies play a role in just what the final market price of what it means to afford a home is, and so it's a wide universe of policies that affect it.
Yeah, fantastic stuff as always. Christian Britsky, reporter at Reason, covers property rights, housing policy, and regulation. You can check out his piece at reason.com today. Christian, as always, I appreciate your perspective. Great insight beyond just the headlines and the bumper sticker slogans, and what does this actually mean in governing and policy and impact on the American people. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yep, thanks for having me.
All right. Again, that's Christian Britsky joining us from Reason. Always love his perspective because, again, a lot of these things sound great. A lot of these things sound wonderful. And we would hope they would be wonderful. And you have to look at the math, because math always wins. You also have to look at what are the downstream impacts, because there is this thing called the absolute predictability of consequences. And far too often, the things that sound good as a populist message at the top end up hurting those very same people who are buying into the populist message when everybody ends up in a heap down at the bottom. And so you got to look underneath it. You got to dig in. You got to do the research, the scratching, and that's why we do this show, so we can get you people like Christian Britsky to help you understand what's underneath the headline, how it impacts you, and how we all move forward together. That wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news, but don't go anywhere. We're going to kick off hour number 2 with the question that we can think again about, can we make the Senate a deliberative body again? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. About 600 Utahns will be boarding planes headed to Florida, but not for vacation. KSL News Radio's Tammy Kikuchi reports their volunteers deploying to assist as Hurricane Milton approaches Florida.
It'll be the second hurricane deployment, having already sent volunteers for Hurricane Helene. But Benjamin Donner with Utah Red Cross says it's all about human life.
These are volunteers that are stepping away from their lives, their families, oftentimes their place of work for 2 weeks. These are 2-week deployments.
The volunteers will be staying in the same shelters they are setting up for the evacuees. They are leaving their jobs, families, and lives for 2 weeks. And after the storm hits, volunteers will shift into recovery mode. Tammy Kikuchi, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Israel says it looks like the man who was next in line to lead Hezbollah is dead. Hasham Safeddin was the apparent successor to longtime Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, who was himself assassinated in an Israeli airstrike late last month. Your money at this moment. The Dow Jones average is up on the day, 126 points, and the NASDAQ up 259 right now. Our KSL weather. We've got sunshine and highs in the 80s all week. That's next. KSL News Time 2:01.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Utah's biggest used RV Palooza is back and better than ever. This October 10th through the 12th at the shops at Southtown. You're getting the best deals of the season on used travel trailers, fifth wheels, toy haulers, motorhomes, and more. Shop gently used RVs at the show and save thousands over fall pricing anywhere else. Find deals starting as low as $9,995, like on a 2021 Forest River Viking LS Series M238 LS tent camper. Plus, shop select new RVs at used pricing, not to mention blowout pricing on all remaining 2024s in stock. You'll also enjoy no payments until 2025 on approved credit. Finish your fall camping season in style without a single monthly payment. And if you've got a trade, we want it. Bring it to the show to get maximum trade-in value. We're even including a 1-year Bish Fix membership with every RV purchase. Your fast track to RV service repairs. And don't miss out on our Hunter Special section to keep your hunting season going strong. All this plus free admission to the Utah Used RV Palooza. 3 days only, October 10th through the 12th at the shops at Southtown. Open daily at 10 a.m. Sponsored by Bish's RV. See you there.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Crews have responded to an auto versus motorcycle accident on Pioneer Parkway, about 3500 south, and this is near 4800 west. We are in the final cleanup stages of the crash in Utah County on southbound I-15 near Center Street in Provo. It is blocking the off-ramp. Celebrate Taco Tuesday the tasty way at Cafe Rio. Handmade tortillas bring the vibes. Slow braised meats bring the punch. And 12 tasty toppings bring the party. Starting at just $2.49. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's warm for October with highs in the 80s. Our overnight lows around 60. 81 with partly cloudy skies right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
The United States Senate, of course, was once hailed as the world's greatest deliberative body. Sadly, it's devolved into a chamber where robust debate and the power of the individual senator's input have become pretty rare commodities. Today's Senate operates under a system where the party leaders really wield the immense power, almost complete power, often crafting the legislation behind closed doors, limiting floor debate, amendments, and the entire process. So I think it's time for us to think again about what we think we know when it comes to the United States Senate, and what should we be looking for in leadership moving into a new administration and a new Congress that might change the game and change the results. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it is time to think again about what we think we know with the United States Senate. Kevin Kosar, of course, is a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, where he studies the U.S. Congress, the administrative state, American politics, election reform, and has a great piece in The Hill today with our good friend James Wallner, who I'm sure is, sunning himself on a beach in Mexico or something like that today. So Kevin's doing the hard work and heavy lifting. And Kevin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Boyd. It's always a delight.
Well, you and James really have a great piece talking about the United States Senate. And just to remind our listeners, just kind of walk us through, where are we in the United States? What is the state of play? Where are we?
Well, the Senate's right now not doing anything. It held a pro forma session today where a single member sat in the big chair at the front of the chamber and gavelled the Senate into session for all of a minute at most, and then gavelled out a session. And that's what happened last week, and that's probably what's going to keep happening all the way up through the election. Meanwhile, you have a logjam of legislation that has not received votes. When I checked the Senate's business calendar, the list of bills not voted on runs about 60 pages.
Whoa, 60 pages.
Mm-hmm.
So this confirms what former Congressman Bishop from the great state of Utah here would often say, and that is that the Senate is the place where great legislation goes to die. It just piles up on whoever. Doesn't matter if it's a Democratic leader like a Chuck Schumer or a Republican like Mitch McConnell. It seems like there's a desk there that all the legislation goes to. If it's 60 pages waiting, that's a long time and a lot of ineffectiveness.
Yeah, and your listeners who are astute probably know that the Senate this year has not passed a budget resolution, nor did it pass any of the 12 spending bills. When they've been here in town, they've devoted most of their energy to voting on nominations to the executive branch and judiciary. I looked at the last 100 votes that the Senate has taken, and 81 out of those 100 were nominations.
Wow, that's stunning. That's a stunning number even for the United States Senate these days. They're just not moving anything that is really governing. We're equal opportunity offenders on this show, and both sides are part of this problem that one of the few things that they're supposed to do in the Constitution is the budget process and go through those 12 appropriations bills, fund the government. and we can't even get that part right. So talk to us for a minute about some ideas or some things that we should be thinking about as we look. Obviously, the Republicans are going to have a change in leadership post Leader McConnell's reign. That looks like the Democrats are most likely to just continue on with Leader Schumer. What could we expect? What could we do to have a different conversation when we get into the new Congress in January?
Well, yeah, I think probably at first it's going to require that we voters reach out to our senators and tell them that they need to do better and they need to do more and they need to rethink leadership. Unlike the Speaker of the House, who is mentioned in the Constitution, the majority or minority leader of the Senate are not constitutional positions. They serve at the pleasure of members. Unfortunately, what's happened over time is we've developed this almost kind of a czar model, majority and minority leader, who have said that they will protect members from tough votes by just keeping amendments off the floor, minimizing debate, and only bringing things to the floor when all 100 senators say, I give unanimous consent. And so stuff comes up and then bing, bang, boom, it's passed without much conversation. So we've got to get in senators' ears and tell them that this is far from what we expect from the world's greatest deliberative body.
Yeah, no question about that. And one of the things that's interesting, you mentioned that the political leaders are really driving all of this. And I think if you go a little back in history, it was definitely more that the majority or the minority leader was much more about just kind of navigating what was on the floor in that process. And the Constitution seems to say that the vice president should be sitting in that chair, and vice presidents got bored with that or didn't think it was up to their level. Could it be one of those where if you actually had the vice president run the show in there and sit in the chair every day, could that be one of those changing moments?
Yeah, it's interesting to think how might that work. I'm sure Mr. Trump wouldn't mind if Ms. Harris would take some time and go back to the Senate and stay off the campaign trail.
Might be helpful.
It's a curious situation where you have a lot of senators who are unhappy with the state of the Senate. They kind of feel like eunuchs at the court. They don't get to do anything except stand around. James Wallner, my co-author, likes to say that senators have been reduced to being, factory workers on an assembly line. They can only do what's put in front of them, and that's far from being a lawmaker. So, yeah, next month's leadership elections are a great opportunity for members to say they want to do more. But as James would surely point out, that means, you're going to have to take tough votes. You're going to have to get up and answer people on the floor who criticize your legislation or your amendments. And you're going to have a thicker skin.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to us just for a second about the amendment tree. This is something that I think people don't have a great understanding of. Our listeners do, because our listeners are wicked smart. But just walk us through the power that gives to the leader. The Senate's kind of designed to make sure the minority or the individual senator has a way to weigh in. And so this filling of the amendment tree, just describe that to us and how that needs to change.
Yeah, I mean, before anything gets to the floor, kind of a deal is cut with the number of amendments that can be offered, because if you don't cut some sort of deal, then what you're going to get is a bazillion. We had instances where bills have been brought up under basically an open rule, and you get hundreds of amendments being offered, and the chamber is overwhelmed, and some of them are messaging amendments. Yeah. So anyway, filling the tree is basically, the opportunities that are available get taken up by the leader, because the majority leader of the chamber has the right of first recognition, and so can just offer amendments that fill up the tree, blocking anybody else from offering an amendment.
Yeah, and then once that happens, then you're stuck with a either-or choice. There's no way to improve it. There's no way to debate it. There is no amendment process in that case, and then it's an up or down vote, and I think it often ends up letting members off the hook because they say, well, it was all or nothing, so I had to make this choice. Give us one thing that if you were waving the magic wand again across the political spectrum, in terms of what would leadership look like, or what would leadership act like to restore this body to a great deliberative body?
Well, I think if the leaders are going to devolve power and open the floor up a little, which many members want, then they need to also have some promises from the legislators themselves that they're not going to turn it into a sideshow.
Yeah.
The weaponization of amendments that really are not substantive, but they're to embarrass the other party. That's why the floor has been clamped down on, because members decided to turn it into an opportunity to thwack one another. 20, 30, 40 years ago, there was a collegiality in the Senate that you just didn't do that sort of stuff. Or if you had to bring up a really partisan, divisive amendment, it was because you really were passionate about it and it really meant something to your constituents back home, like the Hyde Amendment, restricting federal funds going to abortion. It had to be a real thing as opposed to just an opportunity to take a cheap shot. Yeah. So that means some bargaining amongst members and also being willing to punish those who want to play dirty pool.
Yeah, a little discipline, a little restraint, a little dignity. I think all of those things are not too big an ask for those 100 seats there in the chamber. Great perspective, as always. Kevin Kosar, Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. He and our good friend James Wallner penned a brilliant piece at The Hill today. You can check that out at thehill.com. And Kevin, as always, thanks for joining us. Great perspective.
Thank you, Boyd.
All right, that's Kevin Kosar. I'll tell you, I think one of the most interesting wow moments I had as a chief of staff was an afternoon where everyone was sitting around and really just waiting for the leaders, the Republican and the Democratic leader in the Senate, to make a decision on what a bill was going to be and fill that tree so no one could change it, and then there would be an up or down vote. And this was a group of 13 or 14 senators, Democrats and Republicans. Most of them were newer members to the Senate, and they were all frustrated. Like, I didn't run to be a senator to just sit around and then be told how to vote on something I didn't even get to help craft, or I didn't get to debate, or I didn't get to offer something that I thought would honestly make it a better bill or better for my constituents. And like many of the things we've been talking about today, when we say we have a problem somewhere, it's usually a leadership problem. And nowhere is that more manifest than in the United States Senate. And so we have to make sure we're talking to our senators, make sure they know, hey, we want the floor open. We want an amendment process. We want you to have a voice and a vote and an impact and an influence on what's happening. And that's how we begin to reinstitute and re-enthrone the United States Senate as a great deliberative body, because that's what we deserve. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. The election is less than a month away.
We've accomplished so much together.
You deserve better.
And if you're feeling less than informed on local races, get booted up on the candidates. Local races, state races, and national votes that matter to you. Listen all this week in the car. Your Voice, Your Vote 2024 on KSL News Radio.
I finally decided a few months ago that enough was enough with the high electrical bills in the summer and the high heating bills in the winter, and it was time to replace our builder-grade windows of our 20-year-old home with the latest and greatest windows from Advanced Window Products. Ever since Jake and Nate showed me a demonstration of what a difference the right kind of window can have on my home's energy use, I couldn't get it off my mind. So my wife and I decided it was time, and man, am I glad we did. From the moment Ken showed up to give us a free in-home estimate, we've had such an outstanding experience through the entire process. Within an hour, we had financing set up, and then about 8 weeks later, the crew showed up and did what we thought was going to be a 2-day installation in a single day. Now our home is more comfortable. Our electrical bills have started to drop. We qualified for energy tax credits to help pay for the windows, and we even took advantage of their expertise and replaced our sliding glass deck door with one that has a pet door built in. Look, I know you don't make a decision like this on a whim. You do your research. So do that. But make sure you call Advanced Window Products at 801-850-9100, and you can get a special deal of $3,000 off 10 windows or more if you mention Andy when you make the appointment. 801-850-9100 or go to advancedwindows.com.
I know this is a silly question, but wouldn't you like to have more money in your savings account?
Sure.
UCCU wants to help you do that with some high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.25%.
So you can supercharge your savings. Take that money that you have sitting in a savings account, transfer it to UCCU, and make more money on your money.
They have incredibly high yields on money market savings accounts and short-term savings certificates. We've talked about that before, but if you've forgotten a savings certificate, you just make one deposit up front and then let your money grow over a fixed period of time. And they've got them laid out for 3 months, 6 months, even 12 months.
Or 5 years, whatever works for you. And if you need immediate access to your money, UCCU's Money Market will give you a high yield and anytime access.
So if you've got your money in a savings account at a different lending institution, transfer it over and start earning more on your money today with yields up to 5.25%.
Get a true financial advocate, one that's always outperforming the average rates of Utah banks.
Go to uccu.com. You're going to love where you bank.
Don't you love this time of year? Fabulous fall colors amongst Red Rock Views and Cedar Breaks in Dixie National Forest. You should take a drive where you'll no doubt enjoy 4 scenic highways connecting you to the most amazing fall colors you will ever see. Put the U back in Utah, because it's all about the journey you create. This fall, see you in Cedar City. If you like nature, start your journey with a stunning hike for the best scenic views and vibrant colors. Or how about mountain biking and OHVing? You will enjoy all the fun fall events, like the charm of an organic farmer's market. Be sure you include a visit to the best pumpkin patches in the West. And don't miss out on the annual Sheep Parade down Cedar City's Main Street, October 26th. You will definitely get it all this fall in Cedar City. To plan your journey and for Cedar City's updated fall color report, activities, and cool foodie places to go, visit cedarcity.com.
Wendy's breakfast burrito has an entire breakfast in every bite. Fresh cracked eggs, seasoned potatoes, American cheese, cheese sauce, and sausage or bacon. So the first bite is like fresh cracked American cheese sauce. Bacon. And the second bite is like fresh cracked American cheese sauce. Bacon. And the third bite, you get the idea. The boss of breakfast burritos, gotta be Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. So at Consumer Cellular, we're lowering the price for those 50 and up. Now you can get unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 a line when you buy 2. That's just $60 a month for 2 unlimited lines. So if you're 50 and up, make the switch and save. Come on, you've earned this. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today. Requires 2 lines of service, age validation, and credit approval, subject to system and area limits, taxes, and other fees apply.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, about 600 Red Cross volunteers from Utah ready to go to the area threatened by Hurricane Milton. Second, Israel says another top leader of Hezbollah has apparently been killed. Third, the ice in the Delta Center ready for tonight's NHL home opener with the Utah Hockey Club. 81 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson, and it's time once again to think again about what you think you know. And today we're going to rethink what we think we know when it comes to freedom. Now, there are a few words that are thrown around more casually onto more bumper stickers, T-shirts, and political campaign slogans than the word freedom. But we want to dig underneath the hood of that just a little bit more. Really thrilled to have joining us on the program Ann Applebaum, staff writer at The Atlantic and co-host of Autocracy in America. We've featured this a couple of times now on the show because they're getting to some really crucial conversations about things that matter and how this autocracy is undermining some of the very things it often claims to be supporting or promoting. And Ann, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
All right. So let's dig into this in terms of freedom. I don't think there's very few words that get thrown around more during campaign season than freedom. But break it down for us. What should we really be thinking about or thinking again about when it comes to freedom?
So the word freedom which, by the way, during the American Revolution was used almost interchangeably with democracy, freedom, liberty, republic. These were words that were used, all the time, has come to have different meanings in America. And there's a history of the word freedom in which the word freedom didn't mean freedom for all of us to be engaged in public life, freedom of speech. It wasn't a specific freedom. It was rather freedom from the federal government. So freedom maybe to break the law, freedom in the before the Civil War to hold slaves, freedom after the Civil War to enact Jim Crow laws. So freedom has been used by some American politicians as almost an anti-democratic word. In other words, some people get to have freedom and some people don't. And in the podcast, we explore how that got used at different times in history, where it comes from, and how you can still hear it now.
Yeah, and it's such a great deep dive and just a really powerful listen. One of the things that you got to that really caught my attention, because I think this is where we're easily pulled off track, and that is how this concept of freedom can be used to both support and to undermine the institutions of democracy. Unpack that for us.
Right. So if you're talking about freedom from the government, like freedom to break the law, freedom to do as you wish, then you're not talking about the freedom to engage in public life. So democratic institutions do make you free, but they make you free inside a context, right? So you're free, but other people are also free, and you respect their freedom. And freedom means that people have rights, for example. So everybody can participate in politics, or everybody has a right to be part of the economy. If you argue for a different kind of freedom, namely your freedom to do what you want and you're not worried about anybody else, then that can be anti-democratic, because your group is free, but others are not. And this sounds very theoretical, but you can look very specifically, as I said, at moments in American history when people used the word freedom in order to deny other people freedom. You can look at, for example, we spoke in the podcast to a historian from Vanderbilt called Jefferson Cowie, who traces the way this word is used in one particular town in Alabama. And he talks already in the early 19th century, he talks about people in that region demanding to be free of the federal government because the federal government had made treaties with local Native Americans, and they wanted to be free to break the treaties. But when you're free to break the treaties and free to break the law, then you're not abiding by the law and you're not participating in democracy. And so that's the way the word has been used in the past. But of course, there's a positive vision of freedom as well. Freedom, freedom inside institutions, freedom to be, freedom to share politics with other people.
Yeah, and so as you look at that, especially with where we are as a nation right now, kind of walk us through some thoughts, some ideas in terms of how, as Americans, we can balance both those individual freedoms, freedom from and freedom to, along with our collective responsibilities to each other in what we, the people, choose to do together.
Well, all of us are living here together, whether we want to be or not, and so some form of politics whereby people's rights are respected and people's ability to be as free as possible within the context of the law is possible. It seems like it's kind of prerequisite. Creating a system in which some people have more rights than others, or some people are more free than others, is going to create immediately inequality and unhappiness. But you can hear that language still. Sometimes, I mean, one of the things that Cowie noticed was that the language on January the 6th, some of the protesters who were demanding to overthrow the results of a democratic election were also using the word freedom. So freedom from democracy, freedom to disobey the law. This is where you're in the territory, you're heading towards anarchy. Yeah. And really, in a world where there's no law, and in a world where there's no where there's no order and where there are no institutions, then you aren't really free, because you're then subject to whoever is the warlord, or whoever has the most money, or whoever is able to dominate your particular community.
Yeah, and that is the slippery slope of all of it, to be sure. Ann Applebaum, staff writer at The Atlantic, co-host of Autocracy in America. This is episode number 5 in the series, The Danger of Campaigning for Freedom. Again, rethinking what we think we know about that is an important thing for all of us to get to. Ann, thanks so much for making time for us today. Appreciate you joining the show.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to step aside for some bottom of the hour news. Don't go anywhere. More Inside Sources coming up next.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, a medical helicopter on the way to pick up a patient had to make a hard landing in Summit County this morning. Sheriff Sergeant Felicia Sotelo says this happened in the Elizabeth Mountain area west of Black's Fork.
We have a couple of people that are going to stay with the aircraft and until the mechanics get there.
No one on the crew was injured. The helicopter did not have a patient on board. The one they were going to pick up was taken to the hospital by ground ambulance instead. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Hurricane Milton, now a Category 4, churning towards the Gulf Coast. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says Milton is due to make landfall late Wednesday night or early Thursday morning.
The most recent models have it somewhere in Manatee County, just south of Tampa Bay.
Governor DeSantis has mobilized 8,000 National Guard members in advance of the storm. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average finishing the trading day up 126 points. The NASDAQ was up 259. The S&P 500 was up 55. And our KSL weather, we've got temperatures in the 80s. Pretty warm for October. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
And now a minute of kindness brought to you by One Kind Act a Day. In 2010, Haiti was rocked with a tragic earthquake that resulted in 200,000 casualties, ruined homes, and destroyed the only clinic in Haiti. Moved by this tragedy, Eliza Stewart started selling cookies to raise money to help, which turned into a charity called Eliza's Heart for Haiti. Oh, and let's just mention Eliza was just 6 years old. Since then, Eliza and her efforts have continued to grow. She is now a student at the University of Utah, where her leadership and charitable spirit help inspire others to do the same and serve. 6-year-old Eliza is an example of what all of us can become, because you're never too small to start something big. A Minute of Kindness is brought to you by One Kind Act a Day. Find out more online at thepowerofkind.org. That's thepowerofkind.org.
Did you know that your largest investment asset might not be your retirement account or home? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. Most people don't realize that their life insurance policy is actually an asset they can sell. But for almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. We've even created a free policy value calculator at abacuspays.com so you can find out in seconds what we might pay for your policy. There are no fees and no obligations, just information. Knowing the value of your life insurance policy is as important as knowing the value of your home, your equity portfolio, or your finances in total. Discover the valuable information you need to understand the current market value for your life insurance, and then get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Visit abacuspays.com to learn more and use our free policy value calculator today.
Do you have chirping smoke detectors? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you've ever experienced chirping smoke detectors, you already know how annoying it can be. A great first step to try and stop the chirping is to change the batteries. If the chirping continues, it's possible that your smoke detector has gone bad. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even realize that manufacturers recommend replacing the smoke detector altogether after 10 years. If you remove the smoke detector from the wall, on the back you should find a date of when it was made. Do a little math and you'll know how old it is. Now, Any Hour Services knows being a homeowner means you've got a list a mile long of things to do around the house, and check my electrical system probably isn't one of them. That's why we've put together this radio special for any homeowners listening. One of our licensed electricians will perform a comprehensive inspection of your electrical system that includes testing those smoke detectors and give you a full written report for only $29. But you have to mention this ad when you call. Call Any Hour Services to schedule at 801-443-7300. 801-443-7300. Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
A small accident downtown. This is at State Street and First Avenue in Salt Lake. And the final cleanup of this Utah County crash on southbound I-15 near Center Street in Provo. It's in the Gore area between the exit ramp and the main flow. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Weather's warm for October with highs in the 80s. Our overnight lows will be around 60. And right now, we're at 80 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
We're going to take a little look at communication strategy when it comes to the presidential election right now. It's so fascinating to see how each campaign is approaching opportunities to speak to the American people, to address issues, resolve concerns, ask for votes. And, of course, one of the criticisms of the Kamala Harris campaign has been her absence at podiums in front of reporters. So this week, she has ramped up her media appearances. And I want to put that in air quotes. I think most of these have been appearances in pretty comfy confines like podcasts and The View. But one in particular is a little more serious. A lot more serious, actually. It's 60 Minutes on CBS. A long history there of asking questions, asking follow-ups, getting to the real issues. And the Vice President Harris decided that she would sit down for that interview. Now, former President Donald Trump was also offered an interview slot with 60 Minutes, and he turned it down. He passed by and said he can do his own talking to his own people the way he wants to and do it different. So as you look at the Vice President sit down, again, I applaud her sitting down and taking real questions from a real journalist and going through the process. And whether you're voting for Kamala Harris or not, whether you like her or not, whether you think she should be the candidate or not, she did the right thing. She sat down for the interview. I have always said that one of the things that made Barack Obama a better president and a better general election candidate was because he did all the interviews. And he had to do it for a long time. He did not clinch the nomination over Hillary Clinton until June of that year. So he had to go through the process a lot, and it made him better. He learned to answer better. He learned to listen better. He learned to change the strategy and the emphasis better. And it's one of those things that we just haven't seen. And so I think this is an important interview. So we're going to break it down just a little bit. Again, set your politics on the side. Let's talk about it in terms of what was asked, what was said, and what that actually means. So let's start with the interviewer, longtime 60 Minutes reporter Bill Whitaker, interviewed Vice President Harris. Beginning the interview, he started by asking about the expanding war and escalating situation we're seeing in the Middle East. He asked why the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, continues to ignore American advice. Here's a really interesting exchange. Take a listen.
We supply Israel with billions of dollars in military aid. And yet, Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be charting his own course. The Biden-Harris administration has pressed him to agree to a ceasefire. He's resisted. You urged him not to go into Lebanon. He went in anyway. Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
The work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
I think the vice president did quite well in that space, and particularly the way she pushed back on the question from Bill Whitaker about Benjamin Netanyahu. And I actually think she got that part right, because too often we put all our eggs in who the politician is or what their title is, as opposed to the nation and the people. And so I actually thought that was pretty effective from Vice President Harris to say, well, the better question is not whether or not we have an ally in Benjamin Netanyahu. The important question is our alliance, our connection with the people of Israel. That was pretty good. I think she did handle that one really well. I think it was one of her bright moments in all of this sit-down. The Harris campaign announced a lot of economic proposals during her run, a short run, including tax incentives for small businesses, new home buyers. Bill asked how that's going and how, big question, how are you going to pay for all that? Take a listen.
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. Their constituents are those firefighters and teachers and nurses. Their constituents are middle-class, hardworking folks.
And Congress has shown no inclination to move in your direction.
I disagree with you.
All right, so that answer I thought was fairly weak from Vice President Harris. It was much more bumper sticker, almost sounded Bernie Sanders-esque, of just get the rich to pay their fair share, with no specifics in terms of what that is or what that means. What does that mean to a small business owner? What does that mean to someone who runs a small to medium-sized business? May look like they have a lot of wealth, but really it's just going through the company. There's a lot of things that I think she missed there because she went solely to the rhetoric. Everyone's got to pay their fair share. Everybody gets what I'm saying. And so I thought that was a dismissive, very populist portion of the sit-down interview with Bill Whitaker from CBS. I want to get one last one in here. She was also questioned about the border and the many problems. Of course, we've covered a lot of those over the last 4 years on this show. The vice president was asked specifically why the Biden administration didn't do more to curb the flow of migrants years ago.
I've been covering the border for years. And so I know this is not a problem that started with your administration.
Correct.
But there was an historic flood of undocumented immigrants coming across the border the first 3 years of your administration. As a matter of fact, arrivals quadrupled from the last year of President Trump. Was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies as much as you did?
It's a long-standing problem, and solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally, we have been offering solutions.
What I was asking was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem, okay?
But the numbers did quadruple.
And the numbers
under your
today,
watch.
because of what we have done, we have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
Okay, so a little bit of word salad there from Vice President Harris when it comes to the border. I think she could have owned some of that and then pivoted. But I think she kind of got wrapped in I don't want to say that we did it wrong or that we made a mistake or that we missed an opportunity. And it becomes much more the shoulder shrugging, hey, look at Congress and those kind of things. So I think that was a miss for Vice President. Now, there were some other things in this interview that I thought are really worth noting. So if you didn't have a chance to watch it all, there are some things that are in there that I thought were pretty stunning. So one, she was asked about whether or not she would meet bilaterally with Russian President Vladimir Putin to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. And she was pretty emphatic. She said Ukraine must have a say in the future of Ukraine. In other words, Ukraine has to have a seat at the table. So no one-on-one meeting with Vladimir Putin is a pretty strong message coming out of a potential Harris administration. And they got into some other components of what's happening there inside of Ukraine and what that's going to look like. I think it's also interesting to look at some of the areas, some of the other takeaways that she said that Governor Walz, her running mate, has got to be more careful with his words. And obviously there's been some dust-ups about his recollection of events and things that happened or places he was or wasn't, especially as it relates to Tiananmen Square. And it's another one of those where I think rather than focus on, oh, he gets excited or, oh, he got, caught up in the moment, or just own it. Just own it and move on. Just get it right and then move on. Because otherwise it just continues to fester. And that's what we're seeing with Governor Walz as the running mate is if he would just say, yeah, I was wrong. I misspoke. I didn't get it right. And here's the thing that's most important to me, and move it forward. And the vice president, of course, also criticized former President Trump on his decision to drop out of the 60 Minutes interview and saying that he needs to show up. If you want to be president, you got to do that. And so an interesting one coming from her, who hadn't done a lot of interviews, continues to not really do a lot of nothing in front of the press directly, just a gaggle of reporters or a press conference. That still hasn't been on the scene, and my guess is we probably won't see that before Election Day. But she is getting out a little bit more, but again, pretty soft settings when you're talking to a podcaster, when you're sitting on The View. Those are all pretty easy-peasy things when it comes to political questions. But we deserve more and better from both candidates. So I think Vice President Harris had a couple of really nice moments, some really strong moments where anybody could say, okay, I may not agree with all of that, but I can see her behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office, and I can see how she's going to process a big decision that we're going to face as a country. And we can be okay with that. She had moments where she tried to duck and dodge and got into a little bit of word salad problems, and that was not helpful because that undermines her credibility. Always better to just stop, own it, fix it, and move forward with it is always a good strategy there. So a lot of interesting things coming out of that 60 Minutes interview, and we'll continue to watch all of that as it relates to the presidential politics. All right, we're going to step aside for one last break. You want to stick around? Got something important to share with you as we get into the last segment of the program today, so we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Jay Broadbent from Alpine Home Medical. I'm excited to let you know we're currently having a sale on power scooters. As we celebrate the spirit of freedom and independence, we want to make sure you have the chance to experience it. We have a wide range of power scooters designed to enhance your mobility, and they're all available at a discounted price. These special offers only come around every couple of years, and once they're gone, they're gone. Come visit us at any of our 11 locations to take advantage of these fantastic deals, or you can browse our selection of discounted scooters on our website. We're committed to providing the 5-star experience. We can't wait to assist you in finding the perfect power scooter. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
I started my soda weight loss journey over a year ago, and it is so nice to be heading into the fall and winter holidays looking and feeling so much better than I did at this time in 2023. Best of all, I let go of that 70 pounds of fat and didn't have to use any medications, get any injections, or deal with any crazy side effects. My fellow soda client Vicky got amazing results too.
I have shed over 72 pounds and lost 47.5 inches of body fat. And I am off of every hungry medication for the first time in my life. Oh my gosh, I'm so ecstatic about that.
Well, that excitement's contagious, isn't it? If you start now, you could be down 30 to even 50 pounds by the end of the holidays. It's as simple as going to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com and clicking on Request a Nutritionist Callback. Soda is the #1 rated weight loss company in America for client results and client satisfaction. And you know why? Because soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Get ready for the spooky season by eliminating all of the spooky dirt, grime, and spills. Halloween brings out the best in people, but also the scariest dirt from all the foot traffic. Carpets, tiles, rugs, upholstery, basically every surface in your home can be zero resified. Right now, you can get your entire home zero resified and get 3 rooms of carpet cleaning starting out at only $109 and take 20% off your air duct cleaning. Don't let a misdeal haunt you. Schedule at zerores.com or call 801-288-9376 and ask for this special.
My name is Brian King, and I'm running to be your governor because Utah is headed in the wrong direction, and we can do so much better. If you're frustrated by politics today, if you feel like politicians aren't listening to you, if you're looking for something different, for a leader who prioritizes common sense and bipartisanship, you have a place with us in this campaign. Join us and vote for Brian King for governor by November 5th. For the better.
Paid for by Brian for Utah.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up Oscar!
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Dave and Debbie.
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a medical helicopter had a hard landing in Summit County this morning. Nobody on board was hurt. Second, thousands of people are evacuating areas along Florida's Gulf Coast as Hurricane Milton approaches. And third, high school students in one Utah district are learning how to avoid road rage. 80 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today, as it always is. I am Boyd Matheson, and I have some news to share with everybody as you're listening in. Of course, this last segment of the show is usually my opportunity to share either what I've learned or what I've thought or felt or seen. And today I'm going to share with you some future-focused things, but I want to set it up with principles because that's what we do on this show and how we do the show. And the first principle is about seasons. You have heard me say many times on this program that I think there should be term limits in Congress, but only if there were also term limits for staff members. I would always say to our staff when I worked in Washington, D.C., that the way the founders looked at it was that you go there for a season. It's seasonal work. So you go in, You work like crazy. You serve every possible place you can from every point of the compass. You try to make a difference, and you leave a legacy, and then you move on. And I know that often made our staff a little bit nervous. I know it was also not really popular when I would talk about term limits for staff members with other staff members from other offices in the United States Senate. But I really believe that, and I've really used that as my approach to my entire career. Is you go in for a season, whatever it is, you work like crazy, you try to make a difference, you serve from every point on the compass, you try to do something that will have a lasting impact, not just on the institution you're working for or the company, but that you're making a difference for people by living principles, and then you move on. George Washington understood that in a unique way. He often is noted. I think my favorite painting in the entire United States Capitol is the one of George Washington. Following the Revolutionary War, he had access to absolute power. He could have been. A lot of people believed and thought he should be the king. He was declared the indispensable and irreplaceable. And sadly, a lot of people who hear those kind of accolades start to listen, and then they think they are irreplaceable. And I just don't believe that. I think there's a fallacy in that mindset of irreplaceable because everything is seasonal. And so I'm going to take a little of my own principles and share with all of you because you're the reason we do this show. And the principle is seasonal work, every point on the compass to make a difference, and we do it together. And so we're going to announce today that following the election, I'm going to hang it up here at KSL News Radio and draw this season of my service and my efforts to an end. So that will be on November the 8th, will be my last day to broadcast here. But until then, we have a lot of work to do. So we're going to get you to the election. We're going to get you through the election. And then we're going to all move forward together because that's what we do in America. It has been a great privilege to be behind this microphone and talking not to you, not at you, but with you every day as we explore politics so that we can look at society and then explore society so we can get to principles and the people in this country who live them every day. That we can stay radically curious together, that we can have think again moments together, that we can look at things and say, wow, I'd never thought of it that way before. That we can have both the radical curiosity and the intellectual humility to approach things a little bit differently than maybe we have in the past. To not be so quick to judge, not to have instant certainty, but to be willing to explore, to listen, to ask questions, to ask better questions and next level questions, and then really listen to the response. And then we get to the better dialogue. And that leads us to better ideas based on principle that lead to better public policy, that lead to stronger homes and neighborhoods, better communities, and a better society, which makes our country better. And so that's why we have this conversation. And so we're going to keep having it. If you're just tuning in, we've just announced that following the election on November 8th, I'll have my final sign-off for you from KSL News Radio. This is an extraordinary place to be. It's been a great season of my life to explore ideas in a new way. And all of you have been part of that process. I hope you recognize how much I rely on you. And even though you're hearing me through your car radio or maybe while you're out for a jog or running errands with your kids, and maybe you're in and out of the conversation, this is a conversation. It is a dialogue. And because of you, I look at things differently. I approach the news differently. We get together as a team every morning to make sure we do it differently, that we don't just serve up what is served up everywhere else, but that we can get you to maybe think again about something you thought you already knew. It takes an extraordinary staff to pull all of this off, and I've got the best of the best. Absolutely. And so we are committed to link and lock arms with you. We'll get you to the election. We'll get you through the election. And then we're going to call this a season. and bring it all to a close. So stay with us every day from now until the 8th of November, past Election Day, and we'll keep bringing it to you, the best interviews, the best people, the best minds, and we'll always explore the most important principles of the day beyond the headlines. So a big thanks to all of you, and we'll do a more formal ending when we actually get to the end, which, of course, will just be another beginning of another new season. Thank you for being part of this, and we will catch you tomorrow as we continue our journey to and through election 2024 and the extraordinary things that we have together as a community. And as always, I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us. And as you go out into the world today, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference. We will talk to you tomorrow.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Boyd, I will cherish this next month working with you. It's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan, 81 degrees in Salt Lake City. KSL's top story, history on ice. In just a few hours, they'll drop the puck, and Utah will become an NHL city, one of 32 such cities, but the one the entire league is going to be watching tonight. ESPN is here, country star Shabuzi is here, and the Utah Hockey Club is here. So is KSL's Hugo Ricard Bell, joining us live as Salt Lake gets ready for a party at the Delta Center. Hugo, what's going on?
Jeff, you said it yourself. Let's just take a moment to appreciate what an honor it is to be part of history. This moment in Utah sport will be compared to the 2002 Olympics or the 1979 birth of the Jazz. Right now, I'm outside the Delta Center. I'm not far from the Utah Hockey Club team store trailer. I've been looking for you, Jeff. The jerseys are not on sale yet, but I saw one or two people with a jersey on, quickly went up and asked them where they got it. Cheap knockoffs from China. But it's not about the jerseys today. They're coming in November. The take-home message is the Utah Hockey Club has landed. And tonight at 8 p.m., they will be taking on a legacy team, the Chicago Blackhawks. Self-proclaimed UHC's biggest fan, Ryan Lawrence, is absolutely beside himself.
To see one of the original six coming to Utah is one of the biggest honors of a lifetime. To come here and play hockey, a sport that I love and that I know a lot of other people are going to grow to love as well.
Jeff, plenty more to come as we build up to the moment Utahns have all been waiting for. Reporting live from the home of Utah Hockey Club, Hugo Ricard Bell, KSL News Radio.
I went to the merch store a little while ago. We're outside the Delta Center right now. The nice sweatshirts with the logo, $140. The T-shirts, $40. What a bargain. Hours before the puck drops, Utah Hockey Club owner Ryan Smith has announced the Delta Center is going to host Olympic hockey in 2034. The arena will be reconfigured by then for the optimal hockey experience. Right now, they're doing the best they can with the basketball arena. Big events like this are not only fun for the community, and tonight is going to be fun outside the Delta Center, but they're also a big boost to the economy. President of the Salt Lake Chamber, Derek Miller, says the Delta Center specifically brings in a lot of business to surrounding areas.
We know from looking at the data that every time there's an event at the Delta Center, in fact, if you looked at the top 10 events for what brings dollars to Salt Lake City, 7 out of those 10 are going to be events at the Delta Center.
Miller says whenever you have a game like this that brings tens of thousands of people together, it has a ripple effect that lasts beyond tonight. Meantime, heads are being turned and hearts are being warmed by the cheap concession prices. This season, bottled water is $2. Hot dogs are priced at $3. Vice President of Hospitality at the Delta Center, Rich Waters, says they want to lure you in this first season.
In terms of just creating another level of value, another reason for people to come back, another reason to get excited about coming to Utah Hockey Club or NBA action is going to be great.
The Delta Center is still partnered with local restaurants, so fear not, there will be more expensive options available. KSL News Time 3:04. Millions of people are being told to evacuate Florida because of Hurricane Milton. Maria Chaleos is live at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, more than 5 million people in the Tampa region are being urged to leave. South of Clearwater, members of the Largo Police Department are going street by street to notify mobile home residents of a mandatory evacuation order. Hurricane Milton, now a Category 4, is churning towards the Gulf Coast. The most recent models show Milton will make landfall just south of Tampa Bay, but Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says it's not the only area that will be affected.
Almost every place on the west coast of Florida could get major storm surge.
President Biden is canceling an overseas trip due to the storm. During a briefing on both Hurricane Helene and Milton, he slammed the spread of misinformation about FEMA's response.
Those who do it to try to damage the administration. Well, we can take care of ourselves. But it misleads people. It puts people in circumstances where they panic.
Milton is due to make landfall late Wednesday night or early Thursday morning. Today, Florida's Gulf Coast gas stations have run dry and highways are clogged as millions head to safer ground. The exodus could be one of the largest evacuations in the state's history. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
And even before it reaches Florida, 600 Utahns are deploying to Florida to assist with Hurricane Milton. Red Cross volunteers, Benjamin Donner with the Red Cross, says their mission centers on human life.
So these individuals that are leaving will be manning shelters that are being set up ahead of time, that safe space for all those that are asked to evacuate.
Donner says they already have volunteers in Florida deployed to help with Hurricane Helene from 2 weeks ago. KSL News Time 3:05. First look traffic. Ricky, I can tell you some roads are closed around the Delta Center
I
here.
bet they are. But welcome back, Jeff. And it is great to have the hockey team in town. And it's Let's Get Ready to Rumble tonight. Well, for right now, you are going to see a lot of trouble with traffic with those roads blocked off around the Delta Center, especially 4th West, 3rd West. But Valley Freeway traffic looking pretty good. An accident in Draper at the bottom of the off-ramp from I-15 at 114th South. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Now, you mentioned getting ready to rumble, so let's talk about hockey and fighting. My Minute's on the way next. Stay right here.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Fall is a great time to start your lawn replacement project. Get approved now. Remove your grass this fall. Plant next spring and get paid. Learn more at utahwatersavers.com.
Reliability, steadiness, trusted voices.
I'll listen to KSL in the morning. I use it to find my weather, to find my traffic. When you ask me what news is, I think of KSL first.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
This is My Minute of News, brought to you by Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air, anyhourservices.com. In baseball, when there's a bench-clearing brawl, a player cocks his fist and then waits for his teammates to pull him away before any punches get thrown. You don't want to damage a $100 million body, so they make believe they're going to fight. In football, basketball, throw a punch, you're ejected, out of the game. And then there's hockey.
McDermott and Rempe exchanging blows.
For the announcers, a fist fight is just another day at the office.
So 5 fights, the coach is getting into it.
A couple big burly guys wail on each other in a bare-knuckle quest for blood. And as far as fans are concerned, blood is good. If a tooth goes flying, that's even better. But why?
Make no mistake, when there's a hockey fight, no one leaves their seats. It's the most exciting 30 to 60 seconds in sports. It's two gladiators.
Hockey historian Ross Bernstein talking with Business Insider. He points out that during a fight, the refs just sort of stand around.
The game has always been allowed to police itself. So you do something bad, you pay a consequence. You hit a guy from behind, you're going to lose some teeth.
It's a sport that believes in vigilante justice, as we saw that time Mazza dropped his gloves. He started flailing with fists at his opponent. Mazza is 6 years old, playing pee-wee hockey and fighting just like the big guys, till his mom tells him to knock it off.
JJ.
Something that hockey refs won't do. So until they give rink-side seats to all the players' mommies, you're going to see a lot of fist fights this fall. So grab the popcorn, and if you're at the Delta Center, even better. It only costs $3.
Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News, only on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay App. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
For the drive on southbound I-15 in Salt Lake County, get this, all clear. Traffic is lighter than normal. Good speeds from downtown to Draper. We had an accident on the exit ramp at 4500 South. That's already been taken care of. And you're looking at a nice and quiet drive southbound I-15 from the point to Provo in Utah County. Scanners have called out an accident northbound Bangerter Highway about 2100 South, possibly blocking traffic. I'm not seeing it yet, but we'll keep an eye out. The rest of your Valley Freeway seeing a good drive. And we do have the cleanup of a crash in Draper. It's on the off-ramp from northbound I-15 at 114th South. Steve?
And if you're coming into downtown Salt Lake City this afternoon for the big hockey game, heavy traffic on northbound 3rd West right now between 2nd South and North Temple. And looks like 3rd and 4th West closed around the Delta Center for the big celebration. All quiet, though, and crash-free traveling I-15. Got freeway speeds either way between downtown Salt Lake and Willard Bay. Good speeds, no issues on the 215 westbound, Legacy, Highway 89, the West Davis Highway, or I-84 so far. Celebrate Taco Tuesday the tasty way at Cafe Rio. Handmade tortillas bring the vibes. Slow braised meats bring the punch. And 12 tasty toppings bring the party, starting at just $2.49. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
High pressure firmly anchored in Arizona is going to keep us warm today. 84 for our forecast high, partly cloudy skies. Overnight, mostly clear with a low of 58 degrees. 85 sunny skies on Wednesday, jumps up to 87 on Thursday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Matt Johnson.
81 in Salt Lake City, and Tampa Bay is in the crosshairs. Hurricane Milton is bearing down. We're going to go live to Tampa, and ABC News correspondent Jim Ryan in just a few moments. Stay with us. We're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're on the KSL News Radio app. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station. Following 2-1 buy down is at 6.7 APR and 5.89 APR 30-year and MLS 245422. Good news, mortgage rates are finally coming down. American Home Loans is offering 30-year loans at only 5.75%. Yes, 5.75%. Fixed rate. You can buy a home or refinance at only 5.75% fixed. Call American Home Loans at 801-262-2221. That's 801-262-2221. Now, they also have a 2-1 buy-down program that starts at a 4.5% rate. Yes, only 4.5% rate on a buy-down purchase loan with this program. As rates go down, you can refinance at